Welcome, welcome to another episode of Yapdom Hearts. It's been a minute since I've done a podcast. Uh I was gonna swap this format over to Twitch and do like live podcast episodes, but then I ended up getting so like involved with playing Kingdom Hearts 3 to the point where I didn't take a break and do anything else other than play Kingdom Hearts 3 for the last 3 months. And yeah, I was like, "You know what? I should probably be working on this." I don't think it's going to work out with doing on a live stream format. But yeah, I was like, maybe I'll just have like a day where I'll just set aside and I'll talk about stuff or maybe get someone on the podcast or someone on the live stream. And it never happened. And it's been too long, and I definitely wanted to record another episode because I had the idea recently that I should do sort of like an opinion type podcast episode. Maybe make this more of like a theming. I was thinking I could do something along the lines of just reading off a bunch of like hot takes because I have multiple posts that I made on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube where I asked people what are like their stances, their opinions on Kingdom Hearts that they firmly stand on. And we did kind of go over some of these during a live stream, but we didn't go over too many topics. So I was like, maybe I could just dedicate episodes to the podcast to this. And maybe some episodes we can get people on and then there could be a discussion with other content creators. But I figured for this first podcast episode after the 3-month hiatus, I could go through some of these on my own and start to, get this ball rolling. What we got here? So this first one here says plot armor is the only thing keeping Ventus alive. He should have died in Union Cross. That I don't necessarily agree with because Ventus, I say this wholeheartedly with my whole chest, is the main character of Kingdom Hearts. I know we got Sora, I know we got Riku, but Ventus has been there from like the very start of the timeline, right? We have him in Union Cross, we have him in Birth by Sleep, and then obviously he's been gone the whole time, but technically he was within Sora. So it's like his journey is like always present. Like he's always in the limelight. Like Sora is in the limelight, sure, but Ventus is like right there with him. And then he comes back in 3. Honestly, I think Ventus is some sort of like being of light, like a god of light, a deity of light. He's something special that we're just not aware of what he is, what his potential could be. So I don't think he has the ability. I mean, I guess maybe the plot armor is the only thing that's keeping him alive, but I think Ventus is legit like the dude has some special properties to him, and I will full-heartedly say without a doubt that this series is his series and not Sora's series. All right, the next one we got here, Arendelle is a good world. I stand with Arendelle being a unfortunate world. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a good world. The thing is with a lot of Kingdom Hearts worlds, when you really boil them down, a lot of them sort of lack substance, and a lot of people tend to say Arendelle is like the prime target. It's been like a constant thing since even the first Kingdom Hearts game. Because you think about Deep Jungle, and there's like one, maybe like two areas that are unique in Jeep Jungle, Deep Jungle that you could probably think off the top of your head, but like the rest of it is just the jungle, which of course it makes sense because it's like, what are you gonna do? It's just a jungle. You can't do anything special other than like having the tree house and the tents. I guess the waterfall where the butterflies are at. But personally, I think so. I think Arendelle is an okay world. I don't necessarily feel like any world is per se a bad world. I feel like an okay world like Arendelle, like Deep Jungle, has a sort of like blandness to it, but it still is fine in the sense that like it gets the job done, right? I feel like a bad world is like you go there and you just have a terrible time navigating it the whole time you're there. And I can't think of any worlds off the top of my head that I would even classify as like a struggle to get through. Hold on. Let me shameless plug. I have a video of every world in Kingdom Hearts. Actually, let me pull that video up and let me look at it real quick. It's like a reference just to kind of see all the worlds. Okay. I'm going to take a quick look down this list of worlds. Okay, I didn't like Wonderland. I think Wonderland was a bit convoluted, but to be honest, it's kind of meant to be convoluted. So I can't really mark it down for that. No, I mean, looking through all these, honestly, there's not a single one that I could say that I would ever look at and be like, that was a convoluted world. I did not enjoy going through that world. That was a hell of a world. Wonderland is probably the only one that I personally could say I didn't enjoy. I guess if you want to be technical, there's worlds like the Mysterious Tower, which is barely like you can't really explore it. It's just sort of like one location and that's it. But again, it serves its purpose. There's never been a world where I've ever gone and I'm just like, this is a hell of a world. I don't enjoy it. Other than Wonderland, but again, Wonderland is supposed to be like that on purpose. So it's kind of like for me to say it's bad is singing its praises because it's doing what it's meant to do. But no, I stand firm with Arendelle being a just a world. Oh, a video just played and it scared the shit out of me. The world is an unfortunate circumstance because they very clearly had a different idea. When we look at every single world in Kingdom Hearts, there is always substance. There is always something. There is a purpose. And Arendelle is missing that purpose. So by default, Arendelle would be a bad world. But that is not the case when you look at the fact of how poorly it looked like it was translated to in comparison of the other Kingdom Hearts worlds that exist out there between all the games. And it's clear that this world was designed to be a different story that ended up not getting used. It looks like certain materials were scrapped. Like the mini map shows that you can go inside of Elsa's castle, right? And then the mazes that Larxene builds very much looks like the interior of Elsa's castle. The what was it, Hans? Hans is in the game, but he has no speaking lines whatsoever. You're gonna tell me that at no point in the entire production that if you have Hans as a character, you didn't record a single line with his voice actor. Clearly his voice actor was not there, and they just made the model for the sake of injecting him in as a replacement for a villain. To me, everything about this is like, this doesn't seem right, and thus I can't really be mad about this. The only person I could be mad at is whoever decided to cut that content. I don't know if it was a Nomura decision. I'm assuming it's probably more so on Disney because I don't see why Nomura would last minute scrap an idea. This seems like Frozen was popular at the time. I feel like they were going to lean on Elsa being the villain, and they didn't want to do that. They didn't want Donald Duck beating up Elsa, so they scrapped it. They're like, no, you can't do this. Frozen's way too popular. Back up, do something else. And they're like, well, we can't. It's way too late. So they're like, we'll scrape off all the like stuff that we've done and then put together something and present it and give it out like that. So I think Arendelle deserves some sort of at least acknowledgement for it it potentially having to be restructured, and they still were able to make something work, even if it was something as simple as like falling down the mountain, going back up the mountain, falling down the mountain, going back up the mountain. To some degree, they sort of made it work in the sense that it doesn't feel almost like, why are we here? What are we doing here? Right? Like, we got to meet Anna, Sven, Olaf, all of them. Like, it works. It works. You meet Elsa, you meet the other characters. It makes it makes the story flow well enough, even though it probably was supposed to be something completely and utterly different. All right, so the next one here says that everyone in the Birth by Sleep trio and Master Ericus do not have the mental fortitude to be masters, and Aqua should be demoted. I don't get what's so special about being a master, to be honest. I wish the games sort of portrayed that better, because we know Ericus is a master, Xehanort, Riku, Aqua, Mickey, but it's like, what do they even do with that title? Like, what does that title give them? As far as I can tell, the only notable piece of like information or ability that a master's been able to do that no other Keyblade wielder can do is turning the Land of Departure into Castle Oblivion, which more seems like just a hidden secret that Ericus knows. And I feel like you could just tell that secret to anybody, right? You have a key, if you have a specific Keyblade, it seems like you just need a specific Keyblade. You have that Keyblade, and then you do the thing, you could transform that world into a different world. Unless what they should have done is the master title should have allowed you to wield a specific brand of master keyblades. That would be cool. So then, like, No Name is a master keyblade, the keyblade is a master keyblade, master defender could be, and then you as a master, you get that title, your main keyblade upgrades to like a master class keyblade. That's what they should have done. Technically, it kind of seems like masterclass keyblades exist with those keyblades, and then there's like the Keyblade of Darkness that Mickey has that he got from like the Realm of Darkness in a fragmentary passage. I, I just don't feel like that title means anything to me, honestly. And in Kingdom Hearts 3, when Mickey was like, Riku, Aqua, help me like take out Xehanort when they were in the Keyblade graveyard. And I was just like, why? What can those two do that the other guys can't do? Like what I don't get it at all. So to be honest, I think my opinion on this is I think the concept of being a master is just pointless. Um I suppose it doesn't really make a difference to me if they have the title or not, because I feel like them having it or not having it doesn't really do anything. I mean, in the event if the title were to do something, then I could see Aqua being worthy of the title. I don't know if I would say Ericus is worthy, but there's clearly something like within the time period of that we don't see from Dark Road to Birth by Sleep that maybe he was worthy of it. I don't know. I personally don't like Ericus. I think he is a bad father figure. You could say what you want about that opinion. But I don't like most of the old men in Kingdom Hearts. That goes for like Yen Sid, Merlin. I think most of them that have responsibilities to look over other characters do such a poor job. The only exception is Xehanort, because at least he felt remorse for doing what he did to Ventus when he dropped them off with Ericus. And then of course Ericus felt remorse, I assume, like afterwards when he was defeated by Terra. I just think everything prior to that was just him being so aggressive for no reason. And sure, you could say he was aggressive because of all the events that happened in Dark Road, and he didn't want what would happen to his friends to happen to his pupils. I just feel like you being that level of aggressive is just not good, and you just don't need to be doing that. And the fact that you did do that makes me not like you whatsoever. Yen Sid could have done way more. We actually had this discussion on the live stream where we came to the conclusion that Yen Sid very much could have gone with Mickey to the Realm of Darkness to save Aqua instead of Mickey waiting until Riku and Sora were ready. I totally agree with that. Yen Sid could be doing way much more because why is he a retired Keyblade wielder, master, whatever? Pick up the Keyblade, do something. People need you. Unless there's like some reasoning behind it where he's just like, oh, I'll never touch another Keyblade again in my entire life. Can we see why? Like maybe in Missing Link we might know, but it's like, why will you not pick up the Keyblade? What happened? Is this just Disney saying that you can't pick up the Keyblade? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Xehanort at least had some like motive. He had some like he had like the thought of like I'm going to do something even if it's not good. He's like I'm still going to do it. And I can at least admire that cuz it's like, well, you're still a bad guy, but at least you're not like these old men out here who are just being like careless character like there's like no substance, sort of just being aggressive and clueless and stupid. Merlin I just have smoke with for the fact that he did not do a good job training Lee and Kyrie in the hyperbolic time forest. And why was he tasked to look after them when Yen Sid could easily do it himself? What does Yen Sid do? All he does is sit around. He doesn't do anything until the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, where he does some Moses shit and parts the Heartless Sea. That's all he's ever fucking done. He has not done shit other than training Mickey. Okay, fine, he's trained Mickey, but that's about it. He could be doing way more stuff. Even if he's not holding the Keyblade. Dude, do something, please. That went on its own tangent, but we'll just have it. I'm just gonna leave it at that before I start popping off more about old Kingdom Hearts men. Deep Jungle, Frozen, and Atlantica are the worst worlds. Okay, well, we already went over the worlds for the most part. I think I can see where people have issues about Atlantica. Honestly, it's it could have been better, have trying to navigate it. They fixed it in Kingdom Hearts 2 by just not letting you navigate at all. I personally don't think it was that terrible. It was annoying, sure. I'll admit to that. Not a fan of not being able to actually like walk. I think any instance within the Kingdom Hearts game where you can't just like walk as a normal character, on like with the exception of Pride Lands, because I love Lion Sora. It's like my favorite form of Sora. But in the instance of like the gummy ship specifically, when it changes to where you can't play the game like you normally play it and it adopts a whole different play style is where I am not a fan of. I don't like the gummy ships. I don't like doing anything with the gummy ships because it just takes away from the normal combat. I don't know, because every other world at least you pretty much have like the same sort of like, because even in Pride Lands you still have your Keyblade, you can still attack with your Keyblade. As far as, because I'm looking over the list of worlds again right now, yeah, there's never been an instance where you don't get your Keyblade beyond, I guess, technically Toy Box because you have the mechs, but that's also not necessarily the entire world you have to go through on the entire on the mechs. Yeah. I would say Atlantica is probably the one where it's like you do get the Keyblade, but you just don't get to walk. And so that is kind of annoying. But again, it's still doable. It's, I don't think it's that bad, honestly. Like, it's not my favorite, but I wouldn't say that it's terrible or a worst world. What would I say? What would I classify as the worst world? I don't know. I've been like looking over this list a few times, and there's not really one beyond Wonder Wonderland is the only one I could say I just don't like. All the other worlds have been fine. Oh, let me look over the list one more time. Because functionally, as long as they get the job done, I'm okay with it, even if it's something super basic. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to probably give it to Wonderland. I just don't care for Wonderland. Uh, just the fact of how it's structured, but again, supposed to be structured that way. So to each their own. If I had to throw my 2 cents in the ring and pick one, it would definitely be that one. Chain of Memories didn't need to be a card game. Loved the plot, but couldn't stand it. I honestly would like Chain of Memories a lot more if it wasn't a card game. This goes hand in hand, actually, with what I just mentioned about the gummy ship. Any game that takes away the ability of just being able to just hit the X button to attack, I am not a fan of. So simply put it at that. Um, the because here's the thing. Did it need to be a card game? No, I personally don't feel like it needed to be a card game. But is it bad that it was a card game? I don't think so. Because every entry within the Kingdom Hearts series always tries to do something different, right? And I commend it for experimenting because we had the card system in here with Chain of Memories, right? And then in Recoded, we had the system where it was like it would alternate between being like a platformer or it would be like a JRPG style combat, an on-rail shooter. So that was it experimenting Melody of Memories. You could also play it was just a whole rhythm game, which I personally don't mind. I like rhythm games. I have a whole slew of problems with Melody of Memories, but I think that still scratches the itch of like hitting a button and attacking, even though you have less sort of options to do. It's still you still pretty much has the same function, just in a different flavor. So I'm okay with them experimenting, doing different things. You know, even Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, 3, all of them perform differently. Birth by Sleep, Days, even if it's like the same battle mechanics, like the decks are different. 358 over 2 days did the whole thing with multiplayer, which was cool. They had multiplayer co-op, and it also I think is the only Kingdom Hearts game where when you are defeated, you come back and then the enemies don't regain health, but you do, which makes the game so much easier. But it's an interesting thing for them to implement to be like, hey, we're gonna do something different. So I can't really knock Square Enix for trying to do something different because it keeps the games fresh. It keeps the people who like that combat enjoy that combat. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. I don't like it, which is it's very conflicting. Um, I'm content. I'm content with it. To be honest, it's not the worst. Dark Road is the worst, but that's just more so because of the fact of it being a gotcha game. I guess it was half gotcha, half non, because when it came back, it wasn't technically a gotcha game anymore. But that system, I am least favorable for it. Dark Road, I just was not a fan because it was just so much grinding. And I am not a fan of grinding, even though Kingdom Hearts is probably some of the few games where I will grind to like max level, but they tend to have a pretty easy way to go about it. Dark Road, on the other hand, I just couldn't. I couldn't figure that out. I have a whole video on my YouTube channel of me playing Dark Road. I legit did a whole stream of like I was playing Smash Bros beforehand, and then the update for Dark Road came out, the second half of it. And so I was playing through it because I had never played it before. And I was like getting my ass beat constantly. So I let the game run all night, went to sleep, came back, only gained a few levels, and that was just it didn't accomplish anything. I was still very much underleveled. I Apparently, I wasn't grinding on the higher tier, I was grinding on the lower tier, but I have to grind the lower tier to eventually get to the higher tier, and I was like, "This is too much." It's been at least, like, a few hours since this game has came out. I'm just gonna watch the cutscenes on YouTube, call it a day. So, Dark Road is one of the few Kingdom Hearts games that I have actually never beat. Technically, Union Cross as well, because I stopped playing it before it was completed, and I didn't think they were gonna remove it, and then they did. So I ended up just watching the finale and eventually was going to plan to come back and beat it, and now I can't because they took it away from me. But yeah, but plot for Chain of Memories, amazing. It's a fantastic story. I will not knock it for sure. Chain of Memories gets like such high scores for story. I will give it its flowers for its plot all every day without fail. Kingdom Hearts 2 was the best out of all of them. I would have agreed with this until Kingdom Hearts 3. Now, this might be my most controversial opinion out of them all. I think Kingdom Hearts 3, I personally say it's better than Kingdom Hearts 2. And that's because Kingdom Hearts 3 gave us the resolution with a lot of these characters, right? We finally got the reunions that we've been looking for this entire time with the Wayfinder trio, the Sea Salt trio. It finally puts an end to Xehanort's whole saga of him, being a bald menace and then finally being able to defeat him, getting to, fight alongside all these characters. It was such a nice stepping stone in the story of Kingdom Hearts. I think that the worlds were amazing, with the exception of Arendelle, obviously. But if Arendelle was left to be the way that it was supposed to be, it would have been amazing. I think Monstropolis was a fantastic addition, especially with the integration to Vanitas and the screen power. That was so smart. What else was there? I think San Francisco was pretty cool, even though a lot of people felt like it was very limited because it's like a big city and you only got to explore a certain amount of it. Visually, I thought it was pretty cool. I like Sora integrating within the Big Hero 6 team and sort of like inspiring them with his abilities and then them being able to grow based off of him and his presence being there. The continuation of the pirate story with Jack and Elizabeth and Will, which again, then we got the scene where Sora just decks Davy Jones in the back of the head. But yeah, visually, which again, I don't know if I could really say that as like a pro and con, because obviously visually Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to look better than any PlayStation 2 game. But I don't know. I feel like Kingdom Hearts 2 is definitely like a very close second. If there were any Kingdom Hearts games that I would put in S tier, it is definitely Kingdom Hearts 2 and Kingdom Hearts 3. I would personally put Kingdom Hearts 3 over 2 just because of the content that we had in 3. I personally feel like was more content when we look at the story perspective than 2. Again, not to say that 2 didn't have bad content. 2 had phenomenal content. It's just 3 has that like emotional impact to it. So I definitely put 3 over 2. We both got data battles in each one, and then on top of that, 3 also has the Yozora plotline, which Yozora, hands down, I would say is probably one of the most difficult boss fights in comparison to, I would say, well, I would say Lingering Will is definitely in the top as well. So they both have some pretty notable final secret bosses. With I would say definitely notable mention of Mysterious Figure, but that's more of a Birth by Sleep guy than a main number title secret boss. Mysterious Figure gave me a fucking run for my money. I'll tell you. I'll, t- I'll tell you what. I will never forget that fight for as long as I live. Kingdom Hearts 3's gummy ship experience is far better than its predecessors. I always hated the gummy experience in 1 and 2, but KH3 actually felt amazing. I will 100% agree. Even though I dislike the gummy ships, it's my least favorite thing about the number titled entries. I enjoyed it way more, way more in Kingdom Hearts 3 than I had done in any of the other games. And that's mostly because you could skip a lot of the stuff that you had to fight, which I greatly appreciated. It wasn't nearly as like there wasn't as much sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Like the combat didn't feel as like excruciating to deal with versus the older titles. Like KH3, I went through the entire game with just the base gummy ship model, and I just threw on like extra cannons. But there was never a moment where I was just going through and dreading it, and I was just like, "Oh, this is gonna be off fighting this guy. I can't get past these wave of enemies." And maybe you could say it's a skill issue. Probably, I'll say that. Sure, why not? But I just like I said, it's not what I wanna do when I'm playing Kingdom Hearts. I wanna swing a keyblade. I don't wanna shoot lasers from a spaceship. But to be able to navigate from world to world, it was a much nicer rendition than in those previous games where you're kind of like stuck on a rail and you're stuck on that rail for so long. It did not feel as bad going from world to world in KH3, and the combat also didn't feel as bad because like it feels a little extreme in the other ones. You know, it seems like there's a lot of shit going on, especially in Kingdom Hearts 2. They throw like a lot of stuff your way. Personally, and I also didn't like the way that they integrated like some sort of like space bosses in Kingdom Hearts 3 where it's like, oh, I have to fight this boss before I get in the world. But at least it was not a difficult fight. And visually it looked cool too. So I can't really say anything about that because I'm like, at least it looked nice and I didn't leave a bad taste in my mouth. So I definitely I'll give Kingdom Hearts 3 Gummy Ship experience the dub over the 1 and 2 any day of the week. Kingdom Hearts 3 should have had multiple playable characters where each path meets to the Keyblade Graveyard. Honestly, I'm not against that idea. I think having the story split between Kyrie training along with Axel, I guess you could probably put both of those together as a pair. Mac is out here being a menace. Mac, you want to say hi? He does this thing where he comes in, he starts meowing at me, and then he's like, "You gotta chase me. You gotta chase me." Look, there he is. There he is. Bruh, I'm recording a podcast. And the thing is that he wants me to chase him, grab him, release him, and then just continuously keep chasing him. Like that's my job is I just have to sit here and run around the entire apartment following him until he eventually gets distracted by something else. Anyways, uh yeah, I think the story in KH3, if anything, should have been Sora with Kyrie and Axel. And Sora should have been training Kyrie and Axel because every notable Keyblade wielder that we have seen within the series has gone to other worlds with the Keyblade and has learned to wield the Keyblade effectively via going to other worlds fighting Heartless. This whole concept of putting them in the forest was such a bad idea for the sake of that is not how you properly train someone. But it also makes sense because they let Merlin be in charge. So if anyone who doesn't wield a Keyblade like Merlin is going to do any sort of training, that's of course the kind of training he's going to do because what the fuck does he know? So I can't even blame Kyrie and Axel in an in-game sense, right? They had a terrible teacher. Because what the fuck does Merlin know? Merlin doesn't know shit about the Keyblade. I think this is probably done on purpose so they have more of an incentive to eventually go on an adventure and be like, hey, I don't want to be weak again. I want to be strong. I'm not going to take the easy way and just train by going against level 9 CPUs and Smash Bros. I'm actually going to go to tournaments and fight IRL people. That's the way I view that scenario specifically. I think alternatively, like I said, they could have gone with Sora. Sora could have helped them, like show them the ropes and whatnot. But unfortunately, KH3's story is always Donald, or the numbered titles are always Sora, Donald, and Goofy. So it's like, what can you really do to deviate from that? You really can't do anything to deviate from that. Because contractually, they're probably forced to always have those three together. So you can never break them apart. So what should have happened, if anything, is just add Kyrie and Axel to that. So you have Sora, Donald, Goofy, Axel, and Kyrie. Except for the fact that if we went to other worlds, then if you're limited to only 5 party members, then you'd have to swap out party members. Unless they would allow you to have like 7 party members, which I don't know if the game could handle that per se. But I don't know. I don't know. I feel like they should have had something more in the way of them being integrated to like travel to other worlds. If anything, they got to go. They get their own gummy ship. They maybe get like their Keyblade armor or something. Like get away to travel to other worlds that are like maybe worlds that still have the Heartless but are less of a danger in comparison to like the worlds that we visited in KH3. Like go to Bambi's world and go help out Bambi. Like how dangerous can that world be? That's got to be like an easy beginner world. Uh, bu- 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 but again, I also feel like this is also done on purpose, especially with Kyrie, because Kyrie's always been in this circumstance where she has to be saved. She's always sort of like the weaker one out of the trio. Even though she has her own Keyblade, she hasn't had the proper experience to be able to wield it properly. So I think this sort of failed, constant failure after failure is going to drive her to actually want to be a strong Keyblade wielder, to be actually able to protect her friends. So I think it's done on purpose. Um, but honestly, I would not have been against if they had gone in a different direction. I feel like you could still get to that same sort of midpoint of Kyrie still not being strong enough because she wouldn't have had enough experience under her belt compared to like all the other characters. But, you know, that's just the way they decided to go. And I trust Nomura. I feel like I know that he's not going to do us a disservice. So, you know, either way, we'll have to see what the next game offers, or the next game that features Kyrie offers, because I don't think Kyrie's going to be in Missing Link. So, KH4, if she's in KH4. If not, if they do a spin off game, maybe that'll be like her time to shine. Aqua is the strongest mentally and physically in Kingdom Hearts. Do I agree that Aqua, or do I disagree that she is the strongest? I would say so. I would say, especially from what we saw in a fragmentary passage and Kingdom Hearts 3, the fact that she was able to fight even without a Keyblade, and she never gave up hope. Well, I guess technically there was that moment where she got blasted into the ocean, and then she turned into Dark Aqua. But I feel like that's sort of equivalent to when you really think about like Riku. because Riku is also in the same boat where he's also pretty strong mentally and physically. But it also shows that no matter how strong you are, the darkness can still have a hold and invade your heart. Especially when we look at the foretellers who are also strong. Although I wouldn't say that they're mentally strong, probably more so on the scale of like physically strong. But Aqua and definitely Riku, I would say, are pretty equivalent with both being mentally and physically strong. I would give it more so to Aqua for the sole fact that she was just out here fighting with no Keyblade, just just doing spins and kicks and punches and all this stuff. And on top of that, like when she did have a Keyblade in the dark world, in the realm of darkness, it wasn't even like her Keyblade. So it's like a whole new Keyblade, and she just had to figure it out. I would say yeah. In comparison to from what I've seen, I don't think Xehanort is I think Xehanort's also strong mentally, but in a different way. I wouldn't say in a more secure way. I feel like he's strong in the sense of like his mindset and his sort of lifestyle gives him the strength. But like if you take that away, that sort of diminishes a lot of his sort of like accomplishments. I feel like if you take away the darkness from Xehanort, then it's like what does he have at that point? That's like his whole personality was the darkness, and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be the ruler of all people and take over the world with the power of darkness." And then at the end of it, when he got defeated, he just turned into like a weak, feeble man. Because it's like that's what you really were at the end of it. You were just, I mean, obviously he did age into it, but I guess there's probably more context that we could probably get from Missing Link that could show us like the middle point. I guess technically in when he was young Xehanort had some like pretty good resolve, I would say. I don't know, there's just something about it where I look at Xehanort, even young Xehanort, and I'm just like, I don't feel like you really hold a candle to Riku or Aqua. Like I feel like there's something, you know what it is? I think it goes to the mentality is that like I feel like young Riku could be probably easily broken with enough pressure, but I don't think Aqua or Riku would be. I feel like even under immense pressure, which we have seen both of them under immense pressure, have not buckled with the exception of obviously when they did get taken over by darkness. But again, they still sort of had that same resolve. I feel like I don't know. There's like a presence that those two have, and I can't put my finger on it right this instance, but those two, Riku and Aqua, have more of a presence where I feel like they're more of a top tier of overall strength, where it's a little bit harder to break them. And honestly, I would say it's even commendable though when they do fall to darkness, and you're like, damn, you're still like you're a formidable foe even in darkness. Like I know darkness usually tends to make people stronger regardless, but I don't know. I feel like there's just something when I look at those two, and I'm just like, no, you guys are pretty well put together. So yeah, no, I agree with that. I would say Aqua is the strongest mentally and physically. Days is better experienced by playing the game instead of watching the cutscene movie. I mean, 100%. Like I think the movie is great because not a lot of people have an access to the DS or maybe a way to emulate the games. So I'm not going to discredit the movie in whatsoever, especially if you do pick up a DS and you're just like, wow, this is not for me. I don't like the way this feels. Then it's great that the cutscene movie exists, or even just watching the cutscenes on YouTube, or even my plot point series, which covers the events of 358 over 2 days, integrated with Chain of Memories, KH1, and all of them. Let me see, that's episode 4. Yeah, it's episode 4. Has all of the whole Sora from KH1, young Sora to the year that he's asleep with Roxas and whatnot. That's all part of Plot Points episode 4. Another shameless plug. But yeah, no, the experience of Days, I feel like it's one of those things that you kind of had to be there in the moment, which I will say I wasn't personally when I played it because I played it years after the game had came out in like 2010. So no one was around really playing it. So I never really got to experience the multiplayer feature. But I can imagine if had I like been there at the time, that would have been like an unforgettable experience. And I mean, you could always still do the co-op and multiplayer to this day because you just need somebody else who has the game with with their own copy. But I just feel like it's I don't know. There's something I guess special about being able to play it on the DS and being able to experience a game like that before we got all this like modern advancements graphically with all these like because the concept of playing a game like that on the DS, like a Kingdom Hearts game on a portable system. Well, I mean, I guess technically we had Chain of Memories on the Game Boy Advance, so it's not like it was super, super special. But just the fact that it had the capabilities of like co-op multiplayer, which the other games did not have. Well, I guess te- technically, Chain of Memories on the Game Boy Advance did have multiplayer, so but it was just more of an advanced version of it. And so I think every not home console, every handheld console had some form of multiplayer integrated because Birth by Sleep had it as well. I don't know if Coded had it. I don't think it did because Coded was a mobile phone game before it got ported over to the DS. So maybe that wasn't a feature that was implemented. It might have been. Maybe I'm forgetting about it. Dream Drop had versus mode, but it was like it was against the Dream Eaters and not more so as like the characters themselves. But yeah, when you think back to 1, 2, and 3, they didn't have any sort of co-op multiplayer mode. Melody and Memories had co-op mode and a versus mode. You could do raids with other people in Union Cross. I guess a fragmentary passage would also be in that boat, but it's technically a tech demo, so it's like wasn't really intended to be a full-fledged game to that extent. Dark Road, I'm not sure how Dark Roads if it even had an ecosystem in the initial patch when it was released. But yeah, I don't know. There's something special, just the fact of having a Kingdom Hearts game that had that mobile feature, and I would, or not the mobile feature, the multiplayer feature, and how well developed it was to that point. On top of the fact that you got to play these other characters, like the organization members, and go through like the story as them. I'd imagine like in that moment too, when that game first came out, it had to be a pretty like special moment. Be like, hey, let's come over and let's play through the story mode. I'll help you out. I'll use my favorite character, Donald, and and we'll play through the story mode together. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd say beyond that, I feel like obviously playing any version of the games is always going to be better than watching them. But I don't discredit watching them either, just because of the fact that like it's nice to have a simpler way to experience the game if you are somebody that gets overwhelmed with playing the games in general. So I'd say they're both equally good, but obviously I would always throw my hat towards playing any game versus watching it. But I think they're both good. Definitely, I would say experience wise, I don't know, because the cutscenes are really nice looking, but you do miss out on like the work you put in to get to those cutscenes, especially when it comes to the 3DS, not the 3DS, the DS games. So I don't know. I would say yeah. I'll go with the games. I'll say the games are the better experience, but I'm not bashing the cutscenes in any way, shape, or form. Um, we should have had Kairi and Riku in our party for KH3. We would all see them in more scenes together in the worlds that KH3 had, but they were separated again. Well, so it kind of touches back on what I was talking about before. There's no way they would have been able to do KH3 without Donald and Goofy, which is unfortunate. I don't know if putting Riku in the party would have been necessary because it's like Riku doesn't technically need to go to any worlds. Like, there's no reason for him to because his powers, like, he's never lost his powers, right? So, going to different worlds in a way is symbolizing you getting stronger, right? You go to the different worlds, you solve their problems, you gain your strength, as you adventure. Riku never lost any of that, unlike Sora, who consistently lost his abilities from every instance of falling asleep to being taken over by the organization. Um, so I guess unless Riku is more of like a babysitter role, where he's just like trying to keep them safe as they're like Sora's trying to regain his powers and Kyrie's just trying to learn. I feel like that method could work in like a future title for sure. I guess a non-number titled, which I don't know if they're gonna ever venture away from non-number titled at this point because we don't really have a PSP, a DS alternative. Everything that they could put a video game on is gonna be like something you have to pay like $60 or $70 for. So you can't have like a Dream Drop or Recoded on the PS5, right? That's not gonna work unless it's like a digitally downloaded game, and then at that point it's like a smaller game and it's like discounted and you can get it through the shop, which I suppose could be the alternative. I think at this point what they're gonna do is make the gotcha games as the side games. So if there are any more side games, they would just continue to be made through mobile phones because that's our technically our new handheld, which I don't like. I hope they stop. I don't like the fact that Missing Link is our third one that we've gotten so far. Um, because it's eventually going to be taken off. The servers are going to be shut down, just like with Union Cross, and then it's not good for a Kingdom Hearts game to not be accessible because of how massive the story is. Like, if you're going to take it down, provide an alternative. It's what I've been saying for the longest time. Alternative, alternative, alternative before you remove the service. I guess I don't really know what the cost is for running a server like that. I feel like because it's Disney, they can afford it. But maybe Disney doesn't give them that much money on the Square Enix side to like facilitate something like that continuously. But yeah, I feel like there's the dynamic of Sora, Kairi, and Riku traveling worlds together that would be pretty fun to see. I just don't see it working out the same way that I would with Kairi and Axel because Riku, it made more sense for him with the abilities that he has and the power that he's gained through his adventures to help with such a big task like saving Aqua. And then Mickey additionally also is in the same boat where he never lost his power. He has plenty of experience. They could have had Yen Sid come with him and help. He would have been over in an instant, but instead, he just had to sit his lazy ass down and not do shit the entire time. But yeah, no, I I would like to see that. I don't think that would have worked in Kingdom Hearts 3. I do hope we see that in a future title. Days needs an HD remake where the missions could be played online co-op, Assassin's Creed Unity style. 100% agree. I've pretty much said everything I've had to say about Days. Getting an HD remake would be like definitely if we're comparing between playing the games and watching the cutscenes and an HD remake, 100% HD remake, best of both worlds. And oh my god, that would be hands down like that's up there. That is like an oh, would that be S tier? That would be very close to an S tier game, I would say, because the story in Days is phenomenal. The dynamic with the sea salt trio, best on I'm saying it hands down because it's probably going to get brought up in one of these questions about trios. The Seesaw Trio, best trio, because we got to literally see them hanging out for so much more longer than any other group of characters. I would say, with the exception of maybe the Union Cross characters, but there's never been a more in depth look into a trio's dynamic relationship, just the way the characters have go through their ups and downs, how friends fight with one another. Oh, it was seeing that in HD, like with modern combat, with like updated graphics and whatnot. Oh my god, that'd be so cool. That would be easily an S tier game. I That's such a powerful thing for them to release that I feel like they would not do it for the sake of it literally overshadowing so many other like future titles. Like who would play Missing Link when HD 358 over 2 days is available? The modding capabilities of that? Like, are you kidding me? Like, that would be such a that's in the same realm. Also, if they were ever to make an HD remake of Union Cross S tier, that would also be S tier because that's also such a phenomenal game. Union Cross and Days are just unfortunate that they were released on lower hardware systems. Also, Days more so because of the time when it was released, Union Cross because of the structure. But like, you restructure that into an actual game, people will gladly pay $60 for an HD remake of Days. But if you were to say like combine it together with like a double pack of, I mean, it wouldn't make sense to put Union Cross HD with Days HD. But oh my god, that is such a bargain right there. I think Union Cross alone has enough content to fill up an entire like disc on the PS5. 100%. Days, I don't know, they'd probably have to like add a bit more to it, or maybe do, I don't know. Because they normally do like they did the 3 game bundles before for the HD remix, so it's possible that you could, I don't know, because they usually I was gonna say there's usually consistencies with like the HD remix, but not really, because you had two with Coded and Birth by Sleep, which is, I guess Coded does take place after 2, but then Birth by Sleep is like the prequel. The Birth by Sleep should have been on like the first disc technically for going by like some sort of timeline order, which they chose not to do regardless. And then 2.8 just had Dream Drop, a Fragmentary Passage, and then back cover, which could have been completely different games. So I don't know. I don't know if that would work as an HD if they were to do something like that. Because I don't know if you could sell those games separately. Maybe Union Cross. I don't know about Days though. I don't know about Days unless it gets like the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth treatment. I guess maybe because from what I haven't played it, but from what I heard, the remakes of Final Fantasy VII have added so much more content to the story that it like fleshes out the game to the point where having 3 different parts is like needed. I don't personally agree with that. I feel like that's sort of like overkill, but again, I haven't played it, so I guess I can't really speak much on it until I've actually dived into it. But more so waiting for that 8 1.5 HD collection to drop and it actually being for like a pretty reasonable price, because $60 for each part, not counting the DLC, which I don't know if the DLC is free or not, but I assume it's probably not. It's well over like close to $300 just to play Final Fantasy VII Remake. And I'm gonna say another hot take: I didn't really care for the original Final Fantasy VII. I also played it way later in life, in like it was like 18, 19 when I played it on the PSP during my work breaks, my lunch breaks at work. I didn't really get to play with audio either. I mostly played the game silently, which I would imagine a lot of the musical stuff I missed out on, which is obviously part of the experience. But I personally did not enjoy it. I just didn't care much for it. But I would like to play the remake. to see what the remake has to offer. A little side tangent there, as I do. I will say though, for recording for about an hour now, how many questions? I feel like I've answered a good amount of questions or gone through. Let's see. Or they're not questions, they're more opinions. Yeah, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Whoa, look at that. At the 13th one. Okay, so maybe it's not as many as I thought, but it's still, at least I'm not being stun locked on like one single one, even though I have been ranting for a bit on some of these. Let's see. Let's do the math here. How many minutes, how much minute wise did we do? 60 minutes, 13. About 4 or 5 minutes per question opinion. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. All right, let's see what we got here. People hate on the KH3 battle mechanics being too flashy, but I feel it perfectly depicts Sora's development as a Keyblade wielder. No, I agree with that. I feel like KH3 gets a lot of hate because it's not KH2, is my ultimate stance on why people don't like KH3, because usually it just gets compared to KH2, and KH2 is not a bad game, and obviously I would see why people would put both of them together in like a side by side comparison match, but I I do see now that I had played through critical mode where people are getting from with some of the floaty aspects to Kingdom Hearts 3. I don't feel like it really ruins the combat though. This might, I don't know. I kind of just feel like it's one of those things that it's just different and you just have to get used to it. Like I'm terrible if you could if you go through my Twitch and look at any of the VODs of me going through the data battles or even fighting Yuzora, like I am awful at the games. Okay, I have not learned to guard or block in any Kingdom Hearts games until Dark Road. Not Dark Road. What the fuck? Dark Road. Until the data battles. The data battles, I legit had to learn how to guard and figure out the timing for guarding because there was no way for me to do those battles without guarding. Usually in KH2's aspect, we'd have reflect or dodge roll, and I would make it work that way. Guarding was so difficult for me. I had to learn it, and I had to probably for the sake that the way the combat is different in KH3 forced me to guard versus being able to just brute force it like I would with any other fight. I went through the entire story mode without guarding. It wasn't until I got to that first data battle where I was like, I have to guard. Like, there's no way I can do this without guarding. Like, I cannot brute force this. On proud mode, I did. On proud mode, I was able to brute force the entire data battles with the exception of Yuzora. Yuzora was the only thing I could not finish on proud mode. And then recently I went through on twitch.tv/Briskapalo and did complete all the data battles and Yuzora, and I did it all on critical. The highlights are also on my YouTube as well. I'm currently, as of recording this, working on the Yuzora video, but the data battle videos are up that you could see actually me defeating every single one of them. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things that you just have to learn. It's different, sure, but I don't think it's bad. It's not like Dark Road or Chain of Memories. That's a whole different like ballpark where it's like it's not even equivalent to like the main series games. So like I understand those ones being more disliked combat wise, but like it's just a different version is all it is. It's just like when you pick up Birth by Sleep or Days, like it's Kingdom Hearts 1, but things are different obviously. Like Kingdom Hearts 1 was the base, Kingdom Hearts 2 built upon it, and then Kingdom Hearts 3 just took elements from like all the other games. It's just how it's always been. And I'm sure KH4 will probably be in the same boat as well. That it's gonna take elements from other games and People are going to be like, oh, it's bad because this doesn't feel like KH2, but it's like, then go play KH2. I don't know what to tell you. uh, but though, the battle mechanics being flashy, I am totally for, because the thing is, if we look at the Lingering Will fight in KH2, Terra was transforming his shit into all kinds of stuff. Even in Birth by Sleep, they were transforming their Keyblades into gliders and skateboards and stuff like that. Like, it was only a natural progression post Birth by Sleep that we knew that Keyblades could transform, that there was no way that you weren't going to have Sora doing some sort of Keyblade transformation. Like, I'm honestly surprised that we didn't see other Keyblade wielders also adopting that. Maybe that's like a unique thing that only certain people can do, like Terra and Sora. Um, have there been any other Keyblade? I don't think so. Unless, does young Xehanort count? Young Xehanort can turn his Keyblade into a whip, right? I guess technically Axel's Keyblade can also transform. Well, actually, I don't know. Does Axel's Keyblade transform into the Chakrams? Or are those like just two separate items that he could just summon at will? I guess they're technically. I mean, we don't actively see it transform, do we? I guess we kind of do. It's not like the same realm of like Sora and Terra though, but I guess it's somewhat of it. So maybe some wielders have the ability to transform their Keyblades, and um, others they probably don't. It's something that probably should have been explored at this point, but they could very much bring it up later on, because now that everybody's together now, they could easily teach each other if they have the ability to do that. To be like, hey, you could legit just make a cannon out of your shit if you wanted to. Like Terra could very much easily show that. Imagine Roxas with like two cannons for both of his key. Oh my god, the Oath Keeper and Oblivion cannon. That would be pretty. That'd be pretty crazy. I definitely could see Marluxia and Larxene doing something like that when they come back and they regain their ability to use their Keyblades. Like, I could see them integrating their weapons from when they were nobodies into their Keyblades for sure. I'm excited for those two to come back as well. Kingdom Hearts 3 was rushed, too short, and doesn't hold a candle to Kingdom Hearts 2. I'm going to be honest, there's going to be a lot of Kingdom Hearts 3 opinions through this, because I definitely have like looked through a lot of these. I made this post back in September and it is January right now as I'm recording. There's like 600 comments just on the TikTok comment thread. That's the one I'm going through right now in this episode. It's just scrolling through TikTok right now. I don't know if you scroll through it if you'll get the same selection, like organization as I did, but um just to kind of, I guess, to let you know where I'm getting these opinions from. But a lot of the ones on, I don't know about Instagram, but at least on TikTok, a lot of them were about KH3. Do I think KH3 was rushed, too short, doesn't hold a candle? So here's the thing. KH3 is a stepping stone. KH3 is not a finale. That's what a lot of people do not understand about this game, is that if you've played Union Cross, you were aware that there were bigger story elements that were going to be introduced into the main canon story, like future events, right? Because Union Cross takes place thousands, who knows, hundreds years in the past. These were characters, stories that were introduced in this game that were going to be relevant into Sora and his friends. And the moment you beat KH3 and you see them at the very end, you're like, okay, there's more. Like, Kingdom Hearts 3 is not the end all be all. Like, Kingdom Hearts 3 is a stepping stone to the end all be all, which could be KH4, it could be KH5. We don't really know how much longer Nomura is going to work on this story, right? So for me personally, I was like, "Oh, cool. That's so hype because that means that there's more Kingdom Hearts content on the horizon. And when we do get to that finale, it's going to be such a big finale. It's going to be amazing because we're going to fight the Foretellers and the Master of Masters and then potentially fight like the Dandelions if or they get involved in some way, shape, or form with like Ephemer or Scold. Obviously, we've got Ventus, Marluxia, and Larxene with us. Strelitzia is now back in the picture, and we know that Strelitzia is like revered as one of the best Keyblade wielders along with her brother. So there are so many moving parts, and KH3 was like a big piece to that, where they were like, hey, here's a big resolution to so many character story arcs, but this is not it. Like, there's still more, and we're setting up for something really big. And I think a lot of people didn't understand that, and they got disappointed because they were like, this feels like a resolution, but it's not the resolution. So, like, why? Like I guess they felt like cheated or they felt like the experience was ruined. But like everyone else who played Union Cross was like, "Oh my god, this is so exciting. Like I cannot wait for more Kingdom Hearts." Oh, like I don't know how else to like express myself on how exciting it was. Like obviously like there was moments when like they were in the Keyblade graveyard with Xemnas, Luxor, Demix, Marluxia, and Larxene, and then Demix or Xemnas is talking about like how they all have ties to the Keyblade War, and you're like, oh, they're great. They're talking about the phone game. They're talking about the phone game, and then Ephemer shows up in the Keyblade graveyard, and then you're just like, okay, 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 this is getting hype. And then the Keyblades from the past shows up, and I'm like, okay, okay, okay. And then the game ends, and you're just like, oh no, that means we gotta wait longer. But they're gonna integrate this stuff coming up. And then if you didn't know anything about any of that, you would just be like, what the fuck is all this? Like, this seems like it was just set up and then we didn't follow through with it. And you probably assumed it was too short because you're like, where was this other content? But the thing with Kingdom Hearts is that the content is divided between every title. So it's like Nomura told us the bits and pieces that we were supposed to know within Kingdom Hearts 3, and then the rest of it is going to be reserved for other future titles. So I feel like the expectations, depending on how addicted you are to Kingdom Hearts, is definitely influenced your opinion on KH3. I feel like most casual people who didn't play the phone games probably have more of a negative view on KH3. There are some people who have, like, maybe have only played Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, and 3 and have loved it. They've loved 3, no opinions whatsoever. You know, I feel like they're probably more in the minority. I think more in the majority of the not of the casual fans probably disliked it for the fact that they felt like there was something missing without realizing like yes, there's something missing, but by default it's supposed to be like that. Like it's been like that in every game where you get asked these questions and you're just like, "Where are my answers?" And then they get answered 3 to 4 games later. Some people might argue that's bad storytelling. I say that that's just how Kingdom Hearts is. So you just have to adapt to it because it's been going on for so many years. There are so many titles. And they all have their own piece of the story to offer to you. So it's just like, I don't know how to explain it other than it is what it is. And either you're here for it or you're not here for it. You know, I can't do anything for you or try to tell you to enjoy Kingdom Hearts more unless it's one of those things that just sort of clicks or you just understand that like, okay, this is a long journey and I have to like buckle in for the ride. Uh, but yeah, I but as of holding a candle to KH2, I would say they're equivalent. I just think that KH3 had better resolutions and better story moments just because they had more opportunity to do so compared to KH2 because KH2 is so early in the series, but both S tier games nonetheless. KH3 should have ditched the forms, get rid of the rides. KH3 shouldn't have ditched the forms. Get rid of the rides. The key transformations are cool, but the rides were too much. So here's my thing about the rides. A lot of people I've talked to say that the rides were OP and that because they were so OP, they felt a sort of obligation to use them. I can't relate to that whatsoever because I did not like the rides because, as I said prior, the rides do not let you swing a keyblade, right? The rides, you have to ride the rides. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. I'm never going to use these because I just personally don't like using them. Just like how block is in the game, and I had the option to not use block or guard, and I chose not to use it. So a lot of people felt obligated to use it, which I personally don't see the temptation to do something if you're like, I don't like this, but it's strong, so it'd be wrong for me not to use it. And then it ends up like breaking the enjoyment because it's like you didn't like using it, but you had to use it, is what my perspective is from what other people have told me. I went through my initial playthrough only using the rides one time beyond like the train segments where you're like forced to use them. Summons are also in the same boat. I generally don't care to use summons unless there's like a scenario of like H2 with Genie. Like obviously that's just Genie doing his thing and then I'm doing my thing. Um I did like Simba though. Simba was pretty fun, but uh I would say it's more so using Simba to cheese fights than actually using it as a part of like my natural combat playing style because it's like if I had to like avoid a big attack, right? There's like a big attack, I don't want to really guard it. I don't feel like guarding it. I'll just summon Simba and just like avoid all of it. I did it during the Azora fight where I summoned both Ariel and Simba in like two different parts just to like bypass the part where he sends out the mechs. I used Ariel and then just used the like final attack on that segment. And then afterwards when he has like armor, you just use Simba, use his final attack, and then you're able to get rid of his armor instantly. But yeah, that's I personally just don't tend to use features that I don't enjoy, and nor do I ever feel like I need to. So I can't really relate to that one when it comes to the rides, especially specifically for that portion of the opinion. The forms were technically in the games, but I guess they're not the KH2 forms. Is what I'm assuming this opinion is about. Which personally I thought the forms were okay. I didn't really use them that often. Other than Ultimate Form, I used Ultimate Form a lot. The moment I got oh, the moment I got Ultimate Weapon, there was no way that I would not go Ultimate Form if I could avoid it. Like I wouldn't avoid it is what I meant to say. Like I would always use Ultimate Form. Uh, but yeah, no, I just don't really have an opinion on the rides. I agree that they're not fun. But again, I just didn't use them, so I kind of just legit forgot they even existed until other people brought them up. And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right. They were in the game, weren't they?" Okay, here we go. This next one. They need to bring back the Final Fantasy characters in Kingdom Hearts games. This one is so okay. The reason they weren't in Kingdom Hearts 3 is because they had no relevant part to play in the story. So why would you bring them back? Like, sure, you could have had a cameo. It would have been cool. I still think, okay, as much as I'm not a fan of Final Fantasy VII, right? I think the Sephiroth fight should have been brought back to Gauge 3. Here's what they should have done. They should have done it in Toy Box, had a toy version of Sephiroth just bust through the boxes in the Dissidia section, and you just fight him in Toy Box. That was just such a missed opportunity because technically it's not the real Sephiroth, it's a toy Sephiroth. Oh, they should have done it. They should have done it. That would have been so cool. That would have been so funny and cool. But Yeah, no, their story was resolved in KH2. They don't really have any reason to need anyone's assistance. They don't have any issues. Um, I guess there could be something, but again, it's also sort of like we're kind of focused on like the KH3 story, so it's like KH2 worked out because as I keep saying about KH3 is that there was a lot of resolution for characters that were built up from all the other games, right? So the entire plot of KH3 was we need to help these characters that are lost, like Ventus, Aqua, we need to find them. But in KH2, the whole plot was just to find Riku. So it had more wiggle room to incorporate other stories like Roxas in Twilight Town, like the Final Fantasy crew in Hollow Bastion Radiant Garden. You know, it opened itself to integrate these stories more so because there was space for them. There wasn't. We were doing stuff the entire time in KH3. There was no space for an unnecessary story, and I can guarantee you that if the Final Fantasy characters were added to Kingdom Hearts 3, people would complain and say that they weren't used effectively because they're like they feel like they were just thrown in here and they would have 100% have been thrown in there. I think out of the outcome of make a poor story just to force those characters to be in the game versus not including them is the better option because that's honestly, I would say, tarnishes less of that character, those characters and whatnot, and has less shit to like for people to throw at Nomura. Because I would like to believe that most people somewhat agree that them not having any reason to be in the story is an acceptable reason for why they weren't in it. And then, of course, there was enough demand that he did bring them back, some of them, in the DLC. So we got to see Yuffie, Aerith, Sid, and Leon because Riku needed to talk to them about this whole Sora situation. So it made sense that they're like, okay, here's something that I can have these Final Fantasy characters do, right? And who's to say that like he doesn't try to introduce, you know, Cloud and Sephiroth back in like another entry because they disappeared and they went off somewhere, right? Though they could easily come back at some point. Maybe we go investigate, see what's going on with Zach. Now that the Birth by Sleep trio are back, then maybe they'll go to Olympus Coliseum and then we're like, hey, where's Zach? Anyone heard of Zach? And they're like, oh, we haven't seen Zach. So maybe like they'll go investigate it. And then maybe they'll find Zach with like Cloud and Sephiroth. Maybe they might introduce other characters because Leon has had that letter from, I don't know what her name is, some character from Final Fantasy VIII. I haven't played Final Fantasy VIII, so like that could be like another story point. The I don't know, the Final Fantasy X characters really have much substance because they pretty much took away Titus and Wakka's personality unless they like grow up to be the characters that we know from Final Fantasy X, and then they end up like the stories from Riku, Kairi, and Pain, Titus, Wakka, Orin somehow intersects and they do something about that. I feel like there's not really much you could do with those characters. There's always the new ones you could add, like Noctis and Lightning, and I guess this new guy from 16. I haven't played 16, so I don't know how his personality would work within Kingdom Hearts. I I think it would be cool. I think it would be cool. Don't get me wrong. I just don't see it unless it can perfectly fit within the story. I just don't see it happening. And I don't think people should expect those characters to come back because those characters were introduced when there was next to no characters in the series. We have well over I have another video. It's every Kingdom Hearts character and I've counted out every character. We have well over I think 50 characters. Every original Kingdom Hearts character. Wait, did I not include it? No. Oh, I didn't include the overall count. I think I included it. So there was an outdated version, and then there's a Dark Road updated version. I forget to put the count in for the updated version. Yeah, I did. So, okay, so as of this video, there are 80 characters, original characters within Kingdom Hearts. There are 80 characters, all Kingdom Hearts characters, not Final Fantasy, not Disney. Like, we've got enough people. There's no way that we need to fill in any more slots, right? We're good on characters. So again, it's great if we do see them. They're not needed. They filled their purpose when the games were first coming out. And again, if you want to see Final Fantasy characters, just go play Final Fantasy. Like, your intent to play Kingdom Hearts should not be because I could see Final Fantasy characters. That's just more of an additional bonus. Like, and also additional tangent to all this. We haven't seen a new Final Fantasy character in a Kingdom Hearts game since Birth by Sleep. If we're going down the timeline of games from Coded, there was no Kingdom Hearts. There's no Final Fantasy characters introduced in Coded beyond Cloud, which just had a return because it was just a retelling of KH1. There's no Final Fantasy characters in a fragmentary passage. We did get to see Cloud once again and Union Cross because it's a retelling of events from Kingdom Hearts 1. We did get to fight Sephiroth in like a secret extra bonus mission. There's like characters like Gilgamesh and Kefka, which were also more in Heartless forms than the actual forms. The medals were introduced, like you could get some Final Fantasy characters as medals. But beyond that, there was nothing new story wise. Literally, like Coded, Union Cross, just a rehash of the KH1 Cloud story. And then in KH3, we had the additional bits at the very end, bringing back those 4 characters in Remind. Dark Road did not feature it. We had Olympus, but it did not feature any Final Fantasy characters. And then Melody of Memories, also beyond like flashbacks, did not mention any Kingdom Hearts characters. Did I skip over Dream Drop? I think I did, yeah. Dream Drop didn't have any Final Fantasy characters beyond written names. Like, some of the names of the characters were there, but you physically did not see anything. They had the World Ends With You characters, which I would say is honestly a cool way that they were able to introduce. I think alternatively, if the World Ends With You characters were not introduced in Dream Drop Distance, they would have probably implemented other Final Fantasy characters that they had not utilized. Also, keep in mind that Nomura mostly only likes to use characters that he designed. So, you probably won't see a lot of characters from older games before Final Fantasy VI. I think Setzer was the only one that he designed in 6, and that's why he was included in KH2. But every other character from like 7, 8, and 10, I think he said he didn't design Vivi, but the team told him that they should implement Vivi, and so that's why Vivi got into 9. But I do think he did design the other characters, just not Vivi. And I believe he still continues to design all the other characters. I think I'd have to double check, but I don't know if he designed the World Ends With You characters. Who designed the world? My R key is not working for some reason. Who designed the World Trade Center? Yeah, that's what I want to know right now. World Ends With You characters. I feel like it was probably him. The creative team. Oh, no, this is the game. Okay, it says Tetsuya Nomura is the deputy character art designer of The World Ends With You. Okay, so that's why they were included, because Nomura had created them, which makes sense. It falls in line with everything else. So, but yeah, I feel like that was well implemented. The way they introduced those characters into the story of Dream Drop makes total sense. Especially now that you've played the sequel, and then you're just like, oh shit, it's like an alternative timeline if you look at the sequel to like why they're there, which I do hope we get to see them again in a future title. But again, Nomura has specifically stated that the Shibuya that Quadratum is not the same Shibuya that they're from. So again, I don't know. I hope we do get to see them because the music from The World Ends With You is phenomenal. The characters are great. So I would love to be able to see them again. We told them we would. They invited us to see them in Dream Drop Distance. So I want to come back. And that's also the same case with some of these other characters. Like I want to see the Wayfinder trio go back to Olympus and hang out with Hercules and Phil and talk with them and whatnot. Roxas could also go too because Roxas is also interacted with Phil. That'd be pretty cool. The Wayfinder trio going back to even Seesaw trio could go to Neverland because the Wayfinder trios interacted with Peter Pan and Tinkerbell, but Roxas and Axel interacted with Tinkerbell. So like that could be pretty fun. It's kind of fun now that I think about it that like the Wayfinder trios interacted with the people in the world, whereas Roxas and Axel just sort of interacted with like the side characters like Tinkerbell or Phil, and not directly with like Hercules himself. Yeah, so that would be pretty fun. I would love to go back and see that. Yeah, that's my whole tangent on the Final Fantasy characters. I think it's kind of I get it. I think it's kind of silly though to keep bringing it up because I keep hearing people say about it, but again, it shouldn't be really focusing too much on Final Fantasy characters. If you're playing Kingdom Hearts, you should care more about the Kingdom Hearts characters than anything. Goofy is a better healer than Donald. So here's the thing, I never give Goofy items. So Goofy never really has a way to heal me. So from my personal experience, I would say that Donald, even though he doesn't okay, I don't tend to rely on Donald because why would I? He's a CPU controlled character, right? I don't have high expectations for him from the jump. So I don't care that Donald is ass because I don't rely on Donald. Honestly, I don't even notice that Donald and Goofy are fighting around me half the time. Sometimes they come in clutch, they throw out an ability that's pretty cool. I like in Cage 3 where you get to team up with them. You also can do it in Cage 2 as well. And then I believe Cage 1 is 2. I can't remember off the top of my head. But to be honest, I don't remember it too often because I would just honestly rather swing the Keyblade than using any sort of team-based attacks. It was very rare when I did. But I utilized it more so in Cage 3 just for, I think I got more into the habit of it, more in the swing. So I just utilized it more. But I would give it to Donald as better than Goofy as a healer, but not that Donald is a good healer. It's just he's just there. He just exists. And yeah, I don't really have much opinion on that one. Most of the time when there's discourse against Donald, like yeah, I'll poke fun at him, but it's like I have no lived experience from this for me personally. Maybe like there's been a few times where like I run out of potions and I start dodge rolling and I'm like I want him to heal me. I think there was maybe a few instances in Kingdom Hearts 3 where I did kind of yell at him where I was like, "Come on, Donald, heal me, heal me." But like once you change the settings to increase healing, there's such a higher percentage of him actually doing it. So I think some people just have to sort of like look at their settings and see where it's set at and then adjust it and see if your opinion changes or whatnot. Again, CPU controlled character, I have low expectations, and everyone else should just have low expectations and not depend on him whatsoever either. 1.5 and 2.5 should have had the DS games as actual games and not cutscenes. I 100% agree. I pretty much have already covered this topic because of the day's discussion. I think even though Coded does not add much substance to the overall story, but could potentially, I do have a video on that called Recoded, or actually, I don't know if that's part of the thumbnail or is that the main title. It's in if you go to the playlists, go to theories. It's the hidden story element, a Union Cross slash recoded theory, and it has the gummy ship with Mickey, Donald, Goofy, Chip and Dale in the thumbnail that says "recoded is important?" question mark exclamation point. I think recoded is going to have a bigger story to tell. Very slight additions, like flavoring to future titles, but I think it's gonna the concepts are gonna be brought back to future titles. I have a theory on it. It's only like a minute long, a minute and a half long, so it's nothing too beefy. Not like some of my newer ones that are like 20 to 15 minutes long in length. This was like a very short one that I made for TikTok like forever ago, and then brought over to YouTube. Uh, bu- 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 Did I have anything else to add to that? I don't think I did. Yeah, no, I agree that they should be actual games. I think Days was a missed opportunity. Coded again doesn't add substance, but I don't see any reason why you couldn't just remake it. Okay, well, no, I do see why. It's probably limitations on the discs itself. Also, the amount of work you have to put in to translate a DS game to an actual game versus PS2 games and PSP games, probably easily translated better. I understand why they did what they did. I hope that now that we have better hardware, that the possibilities of those games existing as like play that actually, you know what? Going back to the bundle idea, bundle bundle Days and Coded together uh as a package deal. Oh, people would pay $60 for that hands down, no problem at all. I don't know what you would call it. The the HD remix hidden collection or something like that. I guess you could just say Days and Coded HD remix or I don't know, some along those lines. But yeah, no, that would be a great idea. They should do that. They should remake both those games and bundle them together and then sell it as a title, which would have been a great game to hold us over until we got more information on Cage 4 because this is the longest we've gone without having anything physical to play Kingdom Hearts wise because before when we were waiting for KH3, we had Union Cross, and now we don't have Missing Link. We don't have anything to really do in the meantime. So, and also no HD remakes were coming out at the time too before KH3. So, give us another HD remake until you're ready to release Missing Link. But I feel like Missing Link is on the horizon, so they're probably not going to do that. Maybe like I don't think they. I guess at this point they really don't have to because once Missing Link comes out, that pretty much holds everybody over until KH4 depending on how long Missing Link survives until my hair is like all over the place. All right, next opinion is Roxas is cooler than Sora. If you haven't seen it, regular Pat has a video where he polled his audience and asked them who their favorite characters were. And I won't say the exact placements, but I will say that Roxas placed higher than Sora. So the consensus of Roxas being more liked than Sora is has been proven via the regular Pat character tier list video. I I really have to think about this because here's the thing. My favorite characters are Axel, the Master of Masters, and Strelitzia, right? And then additionally, Aced and Riku. Those are my top five. I pretty much would say Sora and Roxas are equivalent to one another. I think people who are more into edgier type characters tend to relate to Roxas or enjoy Roxas's character. I don't have anything against Roxas. I think he's all right. I initially didn't really care much for him because I thought that he was a little whiny, but then when I replayed the games that featured him, it made sense and why he was a little bit more emotional or whatnot than I initially took him for, because obviously his entire presence had to be questioned. What is he here for? What is his purpose and whatnot? So I understood it more. I understood it more when I got older and I replayed it. Sora just sort of feels like your basic sort of protagonist for the most part. Again, I don't want to say he's vanilla. He's just sort of like this. I do like the whole concept of like my friends are my power and all that stuff. Like that's something that I can connect with. It's just that like when I look at a character like Axel and I see like what he's gone through in days, and on top of that, not just days, but like pre-days with Chain of Memories, Dream Drop Distance, Kingdom Hearts 3, like that. There's like so much growth with him. In Birth by Sleep, we saw him when he was like younger and the way he interacted with like Isa and Ventus. So there's just more substance that Axel Lee has provided that I've enjoyed more than I would say with the amount of time that we've even spent with Sora or even Roxas. Um, I would say alternatively, I would probably rank Sora higher, but I just feel like even other characters that we've seen a little bit of their personality, like the Master of Masters, Gula, and Strelitzia, there's certain aspects about them that I just find more endearing. Like there's not much that Sora provides for me that I'm just like I would rank one over the other when in comparison to Roxas. I think they're both okay. I don't think one is cooler or lamer than the other. I think that they're both okay. I'm not going to say that they're both mid. I'm not going to say that they're both bad characters. I'm going to say they are both okay. They're both cool. I don't think one is better than the other. Maybe future titles we get a little bit more personality, not personality, more time to. I hate saying that because like we've had plenty of time with Roxas between days, age 2, and the few bits that we've gotten from like Kingdom Hearts 3, and the one instance of like Roxas showing up in The World That Never Was in Dream Drop Distance. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe if they have like a personality shift, like they get older, maybe there's some traits that I could identify more with, but again, I would not say I share this opinion saying that one is cooler than the other. I think they're both equal and that they're both okay. Uh, Kingdom Hearts 3 is overrated, is overhated, and underrated. Okay, I misread that. Uh, yeah, I do think that Kingdom Hearts 3 is overhated. I would say it's probably the most overhated out of all the games, to an extent where I feel like you could hate every entry, but I feel like again, people don't like Kingdom Hearts 3 because it's not Kingdom Hearts 2. Underrated? Yeah, I would. I feel like the underrated title more so goes to Union Cross than KH3. If we're talking about underrated KH games, I don't know if I would classify KH3 as underrated. Definitely overhated for sure. I feel like there's other games that you could say are very like underrated. I mostly can make a defense for Unicross, I feel like, but I've already said my piece on Unicross, so there's not really much to elaborate more on that. I feel like the other games, for the most part, tend to get their own fair share. It's just that because it's a phone game, it doesn't really get the chance to shine, unfortunately, and also that it technically doesn't exist as a playable game and is just relegated to essentially cutscenes. All right. The story is not that complicated. I think the story is very complex, and that's kind of the beauty of the story, right? Because this whole concept of a story that has started in like the early 2000s and is still continuing to this day is a very sort of like niche type of storytelling. And that anything in this medium, regardless if it's a video game, so think about Kingdom Hearts, Metal Gear Solid, Assassin's Creed, or in like an anime with like One Piece, for example. Like there's a lot. There's a lot of entries. There's a lot of episodes. There's a lot of time. Pokemon the anime is another one. Pokemon the anime has been going on for a very long time as well. Has more episodes than One Piece. As somebody who's watched all of One Piece and somebody who's played every single Kingdom Hearts game, I can honestly tell you that the complicated, complex story is my favorite part. And I love the fact that there are multiple. I love the fact that One Piece has over 1,000 episodes. I wish it would never end. Honestly, there's not enough episodes. 1,000 is not enough. Kingdom Hearts, I also wish it would never end. I would play that game, that series for until the end of my years. But both of those creators, Oda and Nomura, are getting old, and I do want them to be the ones to finish their stories. So I will gladly accept the finale when both of them are ready to provide that finale. But I also have such great appreciation for them that they've been able to continue their story, their passion project for well over 2 decades at this point. That's the sort of admiration that you have to go into with Kingdom Hearts. Is like, this is a beast, and you have to understand that it is a beast in the same way that when you approach a Dark Souls game, you're like, this is going to be a hard game, and you know it's a hard game because you're going into it fully expecting it, and you might be the person that likes the challenge, and that's why you go into it. You go into Kingdom Hearts because you're like, this is a behemoth of a story, and I want to tackle it, and I want to know everything about it, or at least as much about it that you could feasibly learn. It might take like a couple like a playthrough, maybe one or two playthroughs to fully grasp everything. Maybe occasionally watching like YouTube videos, video essays to get more additional context that maybe you missed out on. That's kind of what I've been doing with One Piece because I do want to rewatch One Piece. I watched it all subbed. I want to rewatch it all dubbed, but I've been watching a lot of YouTubers put out like video essays on One Piece, and I get a lot of that sort of like little bits and pieces that were I missed through my initial playthrough, my watch through. It helped me fill in and kind of understand more of the world around One Piece, and I think Kingdom Hearts is also nice to offer that because there are so many creators out there that you can watch their videos on and get the additional information, and then also sort of get to that level of knowledge that you're like, oh well, I know all the secrets because I watched all these YouTube videos and whatnot. But so overall, it's complex. I don't think the story is that complicated. I think the story, a lot of people say that once you get to Dream Drop Distance, the story gets convoluted, complicated, because they introduce time travel. But the problem with the Kingdom Hearts time travel is that it is unlike any other story's time travel. So because it's unlike any other story's time travel, it's hard for a lot of people to fully grasp what it is that's being explained. But the moment you understand it, you're like, oh, okay, it's pretty straightforward for the most part. You can't move your body through time, only your heart. And when you get to that certain point in time, you need another body to inhabit. So look at Ansem in Kingdom Hearts 1 in the robe, right? He needed a body. He took over Riku's body. Or in KH3, where everybody was in replicas. The memory portion is you have to go back in time when somebody has memories of you, so you keep your memories. Maleficent traveled from the Union Cross world to back to KH2, where the good fairies had memories of her, and she was able to regain both her body somehow. I guess her cloak is technically her body. We don't really see what her physical form ever is under the cloak, so I guess you can make the excuse that that is her body to some extent, like a replica, but it's like cloak replica. I don't really know. I don't think they had much thought. They just kind of like made it work in the second game, and then they somehow spend it with this whole concept of time traveling later. But that's how Maleficent has her memories, and that's why Ventus, Marluxia, and Larxene don't have their memories, because when they time traveled via the life arc in Union Cross, they went to a time where nobody knew about them, so their memories did not travel with them. Now, these memories, I'm assuming based off of what we know about memories from Nominate, is that they're always there. They just somehow get disconnected and they can easily be reconnected. I assume Nominate might have the ability to revitalize these memories within these characters that have forgotten them. But that's pretty much the gist of Kingdom Hearts time travel. And then I think the more convoluted aspects of the time travel are the exceptions of how Merlin could summon a door to go to the Timeless River world in KH2, which is time travel. It's just not your body's actually time traveling. So that's kind of like, okay, so there's two different methods of time traveling, but there's actually three because in Dream Drop Distance, Yen Sid time traveled Sora and Riku to KH1, and then they were able to hop into like the sleeping worlds from KH1 timeline, and then they got into like their own separate timeline and whatnot. So there are multiple ways on top of on top of the fact that like the way the organization time traveled via leaving their bodies behind, and then their heart inhabited a replica, and then there's the life arcs. So there's technically four different methods of time traveling. The life arcs essentially just guarantee that your body can be transferred, but your memories might not be transferred. I personally think that time travel aspect is not a bad idea, because when you're defeated in the Kingdom Hearts universe and you become a heartless and a nobody, you don't restore yourself back to a normal person until both of those are defeated, right? But if you're defeated as a time traveler, you just go back to your normal time. So then at that point, it's like, I think it's honestly the better of the two solutions. Either you advance in the time via the life arc, or the door that Merlin summons, or Yen Sid's methods. Literally any three of the four methods. If you die, if your heart and body get separated, taken by the darkness, you're stuck as a heartless and nobody until somebody saves you, right? But in the other method, if you travel without your body is defeated, right? And then your heart just goes back to where it was initially. Honestly, pretty smart idea. I totally understand it. Like I said, maybe some people it takes like a few times to really look at it to really get the meat and potatoes of it all. I don't like I said, I don't think it's that complicated, but I can see how initially it can come off as very complicated. Beyond that, the rest of the story is pretty straightforward, right? It's characters who fight bad guys, they lose the bad guys, or they lose to the bad guys, something happens, and then it's like afterwards they go to like, okay, so Birth by Sleep, good guys fight the bad guys, they lose, right? And then in Kingdom Hearts 1, they fight the bad guy, and then he's like, oh, I'm gonna go find Riku. And then he goes to Castle Oblivion, fights the bad guys, goes to sleep, wakes up, goes to find Riku, finds Riku. And then he takes the test, the Mark of Masteries with Riku. Then he pretty much fights the bad guys, loses, has to go regain his powers via Cage 3, goes fights the bad guys again, win, right? And then the Birth by Sleep crew, they got defeated, they got brought back, they fight the bad guys, they win. Days, they just exist kind of not in a traditional way of like fighting the bad guys, but like technically Roxas does to some extent, where he tries to go against. They have more of a complex story that has more moving parts to it. And then obviously we don't talk about Recoded because that doesn't really do much in the current timeline. And then Union Cross has events, but those happen in the past. So again, more moving parts to that one as well. Dark Road, you could probably boil that down to, I guess, as well as good guys fight the bad guys, but um I feel like there's more additional layers to that as well. I think that probably no, it probably falls more in the categories like Birth by Sleep, where like they win but they also lose at the same time. So I guess it's kind of, but not really. But yeah, no, when you really boil down the story of Kingdom Hearts, it's just a lot of good guy versus bad guy. That's really all it is. And then the time travel aspect is just something that gets introduced in one game and then slightly touched on in another game, but not is it really the core aspect of the story. Like it's more of an additional feature of two entries out of 12, 13 if you count back cover. But I guess technically there is a fifth way to time travel now that I think about it, because I think the foretellers, I don't know what method they use to time travel. So there probably is a fifth way now that I think about it. But overall, I don't think the story's that complicated. I have an entire series here on my YouTube called the Plot Point series. It's the first set of videos I ever uploaded. It goes down the entire timeline of Kingdom Hearts from the very beginning story wise, so it's in chronological order. I cut out all the fluff and the filler. That will give you like 16 hours of content to just watch, and then you'll understand the entire story of Kingdom Hearts. And I 16 hours to understand 12 games in a short film. I don't really think it's that daunting of a task. I don't know how it compares to something like Assassin's Creed or Metal Gear Solid, if they're more beefier with stories and there's more complex elements to it. But Kingdom Hearts is a lot of filler because you have to travel to Disney worlds. So there's not much in the way of story, and the story that we do get is very easy to follow, I say, other than the time travel aspect. With like, once you understand it, then you're good. And again, you don't really need to understand it because it's not like a core part of the series. So no, I don't think that it's complicated. I think it's complex, but not complicated. And I think anybody could very much understand it if they just, have the mindset to want to give it a shot. On that note, I've been yapping for nearly 2 hours at this point, so I think this might be a good time to stop. But no, this is pretty fun. I was thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know if I should like pick out a few of these, or if I should just start reading them and just start talking for the sake of talking, because obviously I am terminally diagnosed with yapitis. There's no way I can stop talking once I start talking, especially when it comes to Kingdom Hearts. So I'm like, okay, no, actually this worked out. I had plenty of things to say for everything. I think there was only one there's only one quote I skipped because I feel like someone's going to go back through and they're like, my organization of questions are very similar to yours, and you skipped over the part about shipping. And I'm like, I'm going to tell you right now, I have no opinions on shipping. I just saw that one and I was just like, I don't really have much to say on that. I'm going to skip over it. Any questions about shipping? I have no stances on shipping whatsoever. So I had nothing constructive to add to that. But yeah, on that note, thanks for watching. I almost feel like I'm streaming right now, even though I'm not streaming. It's like a stream. This is essentially what my stream is. Twitch.tv/Briskapalo. But essentially this is like a stream, except for the fact that I'm not playing anything, I'm just talking. Which I guess in theory I could have made this a stream, but my streams tend to last longer than 2 hours, so I was just like, I'll just record this for 2 hours and then put this up as like the next episode of the podcast. Because like I said, was meaning to put out more episodes, got distracted by streaming in KH3, which, by the way, follow my Twitch, follow all my socials. You can find the link tree in my bio. I'm on a bunch of different platforms, especially post TikTok fiasco. Well, I mean, we this whole TikTok thing's been going on for a while. So it's like I was preparing myself for the last year and started to sign up for so many other social media accounts. So I'm on like on top of being here on YouTube, TikTok, I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, Blue Sky, Twitch, and Threads. So make sure to check me out on all those platforms. The Linktree also has ways to support the channel if you're interested in supporting me via Patreon or Ko-Fi. And also check out the videos for Project Kingdom Hearts Yearbook and Operation Shut Up, which they can be found here on my YouTube channel. You need a direct link. You could go through the Linktree. The initial videos are all there to explain the project, the progression of the project through the year of 2024. And I will very much be updating it throughout 2025. And Patreon people will get first sneak peeks of any updates for those projects as well. So, thanks for watching. I truly greatly appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm definitely going to be down to me making more of these. I kind of liked the rhythm I had of just me talking. So, we'll have to see if maybe other people have like opinions on some of the topics that I talked about and they want to come on and sort of express themselves. But I kind of like this whole dynamic of me just sort of like looking at an opinion and then just giving my thoughts on it. We'll see. We'll see. We'll play around with it. We'll see what works. I feel like the interview style was fun, but like after the fifth video, I was like, I feel like I'm just sort of asking the same questions over and over again. And I kind of want to do something different other than just like a generic interview. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna experiment with it. I gotta sneeze. Uh, Ooh, I don't know if I'll leave that in or not, depending on how loud that was. I should have muted the mic. I don't know why I didn't think to mute the mic. I gotta end this. Thanks for watching. Check out the links in the bio. Watch the YouTube video. Goodbye.